Welcome everyone to Politically High Tech with your host, Elias. I'm pretty sure that 99% of you haven't heard, but I think you should. Voice positive, and I have a perfect guest here who's gonna break. Quite frank, I am still very ignorant. But like you, I'm at least curious. Me personally, I don't mind skepticism. By nature, I am a skeptical person, but I maintain a healthy dose of skepticism. I do not turn it into cynicism. What the heck does this guy want? My money or something? This is a con job. No, have an open ear and an open heart and an open mind before you make that, okay? This is very interesting to me. And I have a guest here who goes... I read his credentials, and let's just say that a one-pager is not going to do justice. It's like discounting this man here. It's easy to call him a Renaissance man. I could say that without hesitation, because if you know so much different discipline, you're a Renaissance person, okay? And of course, when I say Renaissance, you think of Leonardo da Vinci. He wasn't just an artist, he was also a scientist. Things, right? So Renaissance is someone who is multi-talented. For the negative people, you might be jealous. For the more positive people, it's like, wow, this person could exist? Yeah, I'm just trying to provide a balance here. Whether I achieve it or not is entirely up. Before I drag this introduction to a very dreadful length, I have a guest here who is going to teach me, yes, me, your host. Your host don't know everything. And if I say that, I'm lying to you. I have a guest here, Jim Marshall. Okay? He is going to tell us, and if I'm going to be slightly obnoxious, Septemic for Dummies, ABC version of what that, okay, for those who, because I'm sure if I could provide you the link, some of you might not get it. It's okay if you don't get it, but let that curiosity be your drive. And if you do get it somehow, great. So let's welcome Jim. He's going to introduce himself to this lovely audience, and I'm sure most of them are enlightened and they're curious about what is this Septemics. All right, so take it away, Jim.
Thanks, Elias. I am the discoverer of hitherto unknown natural phenomena, which greatly aid in the understanding of people, from which I constructed a revolutionary practical philosophic system called Septemics. 28 years of direct observation has proven that this book would dramatically improve the life of anyone who takes advantage of it. The book is called Septemics, Hierarchies of Human Phenomena. As for my qualifications, I'm a polymathic intellectual whose areas of expertise include psychology, philosophy, theology, parapsychology, science, engineering, mathematics, law, literature, history, metaphysics, military science, political science, physical culture, education, human potential organization, and music. And I hold a Bachelor of Science cum laude from City University of New York. Septemics is a philosophical science based on the fact that many phenomena related to human beings occur in a sequence of 7 levels. Literally, the word septemics means of or pertaining to 7. Septem in Latin is 7. Septemics comprises a collection of scales or sequences, each of which breaks down various human phenomena into a hierarchy of 7 steps. There are 35 such, each of which is unique, and together they span the spectrum of human experience, by which I mean any problem, dilemma, situation, difficulty, etc. that anyone has can successfully be analyzed by one or more of these, usually more than one. 24 of the scales apply primarily to individuals and 11 apply primarily. So let me tell you how this is beneficial in a general way before you go into examples and specifics. I wrote this book to help. I've had a lifetime of helping people. I've helped hundreds of people. Each of these 35 scales provides the user with an infallible way of determining the salutariness or beneficialness of any group, individual, or activity. If the group, individual, or activity moves persons up these scales, it's beneficial or positive. If it moves them down, it's detrimental or negative. So I'm giving you a yardstick by which to measure human affairs, which is an entirely new thing. More importantly, just finding out what level you or another person is at on any scale is by itself enlightening and beneficial. Every time a person correctly spots either himself or another on any one of these scales, he has a realization. He says, oh, now I see what's going on between me and my girlfriend, or whatever. And finally, once you know the correct level for any person on any scale, you can improve that person by moving them up one level at a time. This is monumentally important because the primary problem that people have in trying to solve problems and situations and dilemmas is that they don't know the gradient. These 7 levels are the gradients. So each of these scales is a map for success. So every person is at some level on every scale. Now, of course, you can ignore that data, but it's much smarter to use it. I'm telling you on these natural scales what level you or another person and what the next level up is. So once you know the correct level, you have your realization, you target the next level up. So if you're at level 4 and you try seriously to get to level 3, you will get there. If you're at level 4 and you try to get to level 1 or 2, you will fail because it's too steep a gradient. Now, every good facilitator, therapist, teacher, coach in the world understands that human development must be done on a gradient. So, for example, a good algebra teacher, he knows that first you have to explain what a variable is. You have to explain what a function is. You have to explain what an equation is. And he goes through the step by step. See, because he's been doing this for a long time. He knows the gradients, see? And so if you just stay along with him, by the end of 2 semesters, you know algebra. So I'm giving you the gradients. You have to realize Septemics is an entirely new subject. If you try to fit it into some other framework and say it's a part of psychology or sociology or whatever, you're wrong. It cannot be done. I know because I tried for years. I wasn't intending to create a new subject. But I think I should tell you how I found this material, because that usually explains a lot to people. May I do that? Okay, so the story really starts at 16 when I was accepted into engineering school. Now, of course, I thought at the time that I would be engineering physical things like airfoils or motors or electrons. But by the time I had my bachelor's degree, it was clear to me that I wanted to engineer the human psyche because it is the area of greatest unknown, of greatest mystery, and more importantly, is the area in which we as a race are failing miserably. 95% of the problems in industrialized society are because people don't understand people, don't understand the wife, don't understand the husband, don't understand the boss, don't understand somebody who's running for Congress. And this book solves that problem across 35 axes. So in other words, there's 35 slices here by which you can understand people, including yourself. So, to make a long story short, I had a long career as a human development engineer, using engineering principles and techniques one-on-one with individuals, hundreds of individuals of every description, for cumulatively many thousands of hours. Now, of course, all of my clients improved as a result of our interaction. But beyond that, I started to notice incidentally that I could predict the outcome of the session. Now, I never told this to anyone, but I made notes. And as the decades rolled by and I got better and better, I came to realize that the client would be at a specific level on a specific scale that I had previously observed. And as a result of our work together, he would go up to the next level on that same scale. Now, this happened thousands and thousands of times. Sometimes it would happen 10 times in one session. Every time this happened, it validated my hypothesis. So realize the clients didn't know anything about anything. I was just helping my clients and making notes. But I would say, this guy's at this level. Didn't tell him. I would just see it. And then I would know he's going to go up to this level, and he would. And so my hypothesis was proven correct thousands and thousands of times over a 40-year period. Now, by 1995, a couple of things happened. By 1995, I had observed and constructed about 32 scales of varying length. In other words, the person is at this level, he goes up to this level. And then if he does better, he goes up to the next level. I had 32 of those of varying lengths. But I had one scale in particular that I knew absolutely was correct. And one day, while pondering a difficult client, I realized that this client was at a level on that scale that I had not previously observed. Now, as soon as I saw what this level was, I knew where to insert it. It was obvious. And when I inserted that 7th level into the 6th level scale that I already knew was correct, it manifested mathematically. Now, the whole point of mathematics is that you start with an equation or a formula and you coax data out of it. That's how Einstein found E equals mc squared. There's no mystery about that. Everybody in the math and physics community knows what math he did. Okay? He worked with the math, and at the end he came up with E equals mc squared. So that's what was happening here. In other words, the data jumped out at me, even though I wasn't attempting to coax it. When I saw that, I realized I had a 7-level scale, and it was loaded with mathematics in many different ways. I said, whoa, I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, it has to be natural law, because anything that has mathematics embedded in it is natural law. For example, the Fibonacci sequence. So then I said, wait a minute, I wonder how many of these others that I had of varying length are actually 7-level scales that had not been developed all the way, because you have to realize I wasn't developing anything. I was just helping my clients and making notes. I wasn't even discussing this with them. So then I said, okay, I'm going to look into this. So knowing what I was looking for, I studied these other 31 scales, and in a short period of time, each scale went to 7 levels, and as it did, it manifested mathematically. So in a short period of time, I had 32 scales that all have mathematics embedded in them. I said, whoa, this looks to me like a new subject. Now you have to realize, I took 26 semesters of math and loved every minute. So math to me is not just something that happens with a pencil and paper. It's in my mind all the time. And when it's present, I see it. So when I saw this, I said, wait a minute. I could go from helping people by the hundreds, which is what I had been doing as human development engineer, to helping them by the millions if I put this in a book and get it out so people can have it and use it. So I'm going to have to write a book. Not what I particularly wanted to do, but I just said, I have to share this with mankind. So the first draft was finished in December of 95, and I sent it in a transcript form to colleagues of mine, all of whom had graduate degrees in a variety of subjects. And they all responded very positive. They had different responses, but they were distinctly positive and praising it and saying, wow, you found something here, something like that. So then I knew I had something. And I spent the next 25 years of my life writing this book. Now realize, first I had to discover the phenomena. And I kind of told you already how that occurred in this session. But I did find 3 more scales as I was writing the book. Then I had to take this data and I had to use it to craft a workable philosophic system. Now you have to understand, as an engineer, like all engineers, I'm only interested in results and facts. To an engineer, opinions and beliefs are irrelevant. Everybody has them, and that has nothing to do with engineering. Because you have to realize, for a scientist, the product is a theory. If you get to a theory, that's big news. The theory of evolution, the theory of relativity, whatever. But to an engineer, the product is a thing that works. Whether it's an iPhone or an automobile or a rocket or a philosophic system, it has to work. So it took 20 years for me to craft a workable philosophic system from this data. Because you have to realize I had the scales, but having the scales is not enough. So I had to have a whole body of data for each one of these scales. And I do. If you look in the book, it's there. Now, to explain what I mean by that, some people have said, well, what book is your book like? Having gone to school for 28 years, I have to say, I don't think there's ever been a book like that. But I can tell you, each one of these scales is expressed in what you could call a table or a spreadsheet. So you see all of the data right in front of you on one page about this phenomenon. Now, in that sense, it's very much like the periodic table of elements, except I have 35 periodic tables for 35 corresponding subjects that all relate to human. And if you permit me, I'll tell you the names of those 30, so you'll know exactly what subject matter is covered in the book.
Oh, go right ahead.
Okay, so 24 of these are what I call individual scales, meaning they apply primarily to an individual. 11 I call group scales, they apply primarily to a group. These are the individual scales. The scale of basic purposes, the scale of personal influence, the scale of choice, the scale of permeation, the scale of thought, the scale of identity, the scale of evaluation, the scale of motivation, the scale of control, the scale of stopping, the scale of scholarship, the scale of literacy, the scale of human ability, the scale of memory, the scale of spiritual identity, the scale of mental deletion, the scale of aberration, the scale of physical fitness, the scale of belief, the scale of justification, the scale of equanimity, the scale of attack, the scale of conflict and the scale of reaction. I'm sure you agree these are all important parts of human activity. And these are the group scale, the scale of relationship, the scale of life spheres, the scale of government, the scale of civilization, the scale of survival, the scale of management, the scale of exchange, the scale of communication, the scale of allegiance, the scale of sexuality, and the scale of politics. Any one of these scales by itself can dramatically improve the life of the user. And I'll give you an example. I mentioned the scale of motive. Motivation is one of the most important things to know about a person. I mean, that's how the police solve crimes. They look at the crime and they say, who has a motive for this? This guy has no motive. See? They don't even bother with him. They're looking for a motive. There's an insurance policy and the wife is the beneficiary and she gets $1 million. She is a suspect. See? That's using motivation. So you could use this scale by itself to completely change your life. And I'll tell you how. You could say, what is my motivation toward my mother? What is my motivation toward my father? What is my motivation toward my son? What is my motivation toward my boss? Etc. You could use this 300, 400, 500 different ways. And every time you spot it, you'll have a realization. So, that's what's going on here. Yeah, I see. Yeah, my motivation toward her is this, so that's what's going on, you see? Now, the other thing is you could reverse the vector and do it the other way around. You could say, what is my next door neighbor's motivation toward me? What is my grandmother's motivation toward me? What is my girlfriend's motivation toward me? So you see, you can use it another 4 or 5 or 600 ways and figure out the motivations of all the people around you. Because I guarantee every time you do, you're going to have an epiphany. You're going to say, yeah, that's what's going on here. So let me give you a hypothetical example. Okay, so you see in real life how this. So let's say you have a couple, they've been dating for 2 years and they're talking about getting married, right? Common scenario. Now, wouldn't it be smart for this guy to know why this woman wants to marry him? I mean, isn't that a reasonable question? Why does she want to marry me? See? So he looks at the scale of motivation. He says, well, there's only 7 levels here. She's at one of the 7. See, he knows her because he's been hanging around with her for 2 years. So he's going to spot her on that scale. Now, let's say he spots her at level 1, and the motivation is love. She is doing this because she loves him. That's a good motivation. See, that's the highest motivation, level 1. Well, maybe that's a good reason to marry the person, but that might not happen. When he starts delving into this and paying attention and thinking about things, he might say, you know what? I realized that this woman wants to marry me because I drive a Maserati, I fly my own Learjet, I have a 60-foot yacht, I have a $10 million condo, and I have $15 million in it. That's a different motivation. I'm not saying that's bad, but he might not want to marry a gold digger. I'd say, you know what? This explains a lot. I don't want to marry her. I want to marry someone who loves me for myself. And he'll break up with her. Now, you're going to think, well, gee, isn't he going to be bummed out? No, he's not. Because when he spots it, he has epiphany. He says, now I understand why she said this and said this and said this and that. See, this is a positive experience for him. He's having an insight into this person. He's not going to be upset. He's going to be relieved. Thank God I figured this out now. Before, I wasn't really thinking about this. I was just, being carried away with that she loves me. See? So that might be the end of it. But that doesn't necessarily happen to be true for everybody, because have you ever noticed how many rich, ugly, older guys are married to beautiful young women? Have you ever noticed that? This happens a lot. Sometimes I see some guys with this woman, she's half his age, she's gorgeous. I think, how did this dumpy-looking guy get this woman? I'll tell you how it happened. The 23-year-old beauty queen gets a credit card, Corvette, a mink coat, a pearl necklace, and a diamond ring. She's happy. The guy gets a 23-year-old beauty queen for a wife. So he's happy. So you see, he might not care that she's a gold. He might say, well, yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. I'm gray and fat, so I can see that's why she wants to marry me. He doesn't care. So she comes and says, honey, I want to go to Vegas for the weekend. He says, okay, here's $5,000, have a good time. See? And she's grateful. When she comes back, he gets rewarded. So that might work for him. So none of this is about judgment. It's about seeing what's in front of you. And let me tell you what I mean by that. You might invite me over to your house to look at your garden. I don't even know if you have a garden, but if you do, you might see Jim. Come over, I'll show you my garden. Well, I love flowers. I'm there. So I go to your house, right? And I see, Elias has hydrangeas, peonies, chrysanthemums, roses, tulips, forget-me-nots. See? Now, the reason I'm analyzing it that way is I know flowers. I know a lot about, right? I'm into gardening. So I can process it at that level. So, like, for example, I know that a tulip is completely different from a rose. A rose grows on a bush and it has thorns. Tulip grows from a bulb right out of the ground. It's got no thorns. So if you brought some little kid into your garden, he would look at it and he would see the same thing I see. And all he would say is, these are pretty and they smell nice. That's all he knows, right? He doesn't know the difference between a hydrangea and the mum. But you have to realize this. Most people are like that little kid as regards people. They don't know what they're looking at. So look, when I was a young man, this book didn't exist. I hadn't figured this out yet. So I made the same stupid mistakes that everybody else makes because I didn't know what I was looking at. So I got involved with some people I should never have gotten involved with. Now, cannot happen, does not happen, will not happen with. I got involved with a woman who was of a certain behavior. I was very young. I had no idea what I was doing. It was a mess. It was a train wreck. Okay? Now, recently I met somebody else. Similar person. Goodbye. See? I'm not going to mess with it. I'm not going to make that mistake. So this book basically tells you who and what you're dealing with. So the way you experience this book, it's not mathematical the way I present it. It's like putting on your eyeglasses and looking at yourself in the mirror. You say, oh, I can see that I missed the spot over here now that I have my glasses. And you fix it, right? So, or you hold up this lens to another person, like your girlfriend. Say, now I see what's going on, for better or worse. Now, as I said, every time you correctly spot a level, you have a realization. And your relationship with that person just improves because you understand them better. Now, in many cases, you may not be able to do anything about it. In other words, you bump into some guy, could be online, it could be in 3 dimensions, and you see this guy is at or near the bottom of several scales. You say, I'm not going to mess with it, all right? And you're out the door. Have a nice day. Goodbye. The opposite happens too. Sometimes you bump into somebody who's at or near the top of scale, and you say, this is somebody I want in my life. This is an upscale person. This person is going to be... So I do both of those things all the time. So it's not vague to me. You have to understand. Engineers deplore vagueness. All right? In engineering, you have to be precise. And you have to get it right the first time, which is why we build factors of error into everything. So, we make a calculation. Okay, if this bridge is completely full of vehicles, this is how much weight is going to be on it. And then we add 10% to say that's the number we're going to use to calculate how strong you want this bridge. See? And that's how I worked as human development engineer. It was not counseling, really. It was engineering, but I was working with the person himself. Questions?
Wow, this audience, I really hope you paint it. This is not even scratching the surface. I'm sure you already said there's 35. Was it 7 levels? Correct me here. Yeah, and you're just barely scratching the surface. And atheists, no need to feel offended. You could be included here.
That's right.
To say you need a Jesus membership, a Buddhist membership, a Hindi membership, none of that.
That's right.
This is human life. Application is so vast, so wide, that he already gave a scale that could apply to any situation. What if it's a group one? You get an answer for that. What if it's an intra problem within yourself? There's an answer for that. So there's so many angles, and of course, like humans, we got blind spots, maybe 1, 2, maybe scarily 5 different areas that we wasn't paying attention. Why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? Is because, look, me personally, there was a spot that I didn't pay attention to my motivation. I wasn't very motivated. I found one motive, and it was something I was afraid of. I couldn't stand people for a while. Now, as an adult, I actually like help. That's my motivation. And the reason it makes sense to you, because if you talk to me as a teenager, I would have been happy to curse you out. I would have been definitely in a lower level of that. I would have been very defensive. Smart aleck. It's a clean word for, smart, spelling out, keeping it mostly clean. I would have found a way to try to debunk the opposition, treat that person like an enemy. And sadly, some of those people were just trying to. But I'm not going to repeat too much to my depression. I could link the episode where I got a little to that. But that was my blind spot. I saw the negatives. Everybody, even with self. I'm sure on your scale, I was definitely low, the way I was seeing. Especially on outlook of that. I'm sure it's one of them in there. I'm forgetting all the names, but this is something that I hope you pay attention to. This is very humanistic, naturally inclusive. It's not saying you gotta be a man, you gotta know this and that. Maybe except you gotta know the English language. If not, Google Translate it. There you go, little tech assist right there. Find a way to Google Translate it to another language. Maybe that will help. Disclaimer there, I haven't tried it myself. Maybe when this book gets popular, it'll probably be translated to multiple language. There's someone that's probably an engineer who is fluent in Spanish, Chinese, Russian, French, whatever. Right. Time being, I think it's only in English. It's safe to assume that. Is there any ebook version of that as well?
What's that?
Ebook version?
Yes, it exists in hardbound, softbound, and ebook.
There you go. Maybe you can use another device to Google Translate what he's saying if you're Spanish or anything. I'm sure certain translations going to be off Google Translate. It's getting better. I could imagine that product 10. Some of the translation was off because I do speak some Spanish as well. Some of the translation was off. It's like, oh, that's not it. But it's gotten better to the point that it's getting harder for me to catch. That's not it. That's incorrect. I know that's even the Spanish person. That's not that. Say that in any of. That's all. Before I derail, the only question I really have is I probably could see it. Can this be misused? You already said there's so many ways to use it properly. Is there a way this could be misused?
Short answer is no, and I'll tell you why. When a person is high on the scale, it's because he's insightful in that area. When a person is low on the scale, it's because he lacks insight in that area. Now, the people who are benefiting mankind, like Jordan Peterson or Elon Musk, they are very upscale people. If you were to analyze those guys against these 35 scales, you would find they are at or near the top of most of the scales. The people who are ruining the world, like terrorists and torturers and traitors and serial murderers and professional criminals, you know why these people are like that? Because they lack insight. If they were insightful, they wouldn't be doing these things. Now, I already know that less than 1% of the population of Earth is at or near the top of all the scales. A larger proportion is at or near the bottom of all the scales, maybe 4%. Most of us are high on some and low on others. And I'll give you a historical example. Anybody who's been paying attention for the last 30 years knows that Bill Clinton is a smart man. He was a Rhodes Scholar, right? Ever listen to him speak extemporaneously? He's very smart. There's no getting around, okay? He knows his area of expertise well, okay? Even if you disagree with some of the choices he made when he was president, he knew what he was doing. He got reelected. He left office with a high approval rating. And he did a lot of very interesting things that a lot of other people wouldn't have been smart enough, like hiring Dick Morris to advise him and listening to him. Okay, so on the scale of human ability, he's clearly high on the scale. I'm not giving any levels because I don't think that's it. But clearly, he's high on that scale. Everybody also knows that he's a serial abuser of women. I don't mean to knock the guy, but everybody knows that, okay? So that means on the scale of sexuality, he's at a low level. So you look at the things he did to these women, and there's lots of them, right? You know why he did those things? Dopey things, because he lacks insight. Now, JFK was just as much of a Lothario, but he wasn't low on that scale. He had insight. So he was fooling around with Marilyn Monroe and all these other gorgeous women while he was in the White House. Nothing bad happened, all right? Clinton wound up getting impeached because when they sued him, he went on the stand and perjured himself and suborned perjury. That's what he was eventually impeached for. That went to the Senate, okay? If he was smart, he would have said, okay, she's got me over a barrel. Here's $250,000, honey. Take a hike. That would have been the smart way to handle it, right? Rather than getting on the stand and a lot dopey. So this is the perfect example of a person who's high on one scale and low on another scale that everybody can see, okay? So now let me tell you how to use this. So let's say you have your friend Ralph, and every time you talk to Ralph, he complains to you about I don't know what I'm going to do with my girlfriend. She got stoned, she crashed the car, she doesn't wash the dishes, she's fooling around with my next door neighbor, blah, 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 right? And you listen to this every time you talk to him because you're friends. So a better way to do it is to say, Ralph, come here, let me show you something. And you open the book to the scale of relationship. And you put it in front of his face. And you say, Ralph, look at this. And he looks at it and he's going to say something like, you mean there's a scale of relationship? I never heard of something. And you say, yes, this relationship that you've been complaining to me about for 6, where is it on this scale? I guarantee you he's going to want to know that because you're opening a door for him to have some insight. See? So he's going to look at it, and what's going to happen is in a matter of seconds, 20, 25, 30 seconds, something like that, he's going to find a bracket. He's going to say something like, I can see right away that 1, 2, or 3 don't apply to this relationship because we're having a lot of trouble, and those are at the top. See, he throws them out. That's progress. You see? He got it down to 4, 5, 6, 7. So you say, okay, let's see if you can get this exact. Go ahead and read the text. So he reads it. And you can help him the way a tutor would help somebody, right? Because he's your friend, you help. So he reads it, and then he comes back, and he say, now, look, can you see now? He says, well, now that I read it, I can see we're at level 5. No wonder we're having a lot of trouble. That's a low level. See, he's already starting to have an epiphany about it. That explains. See? So then you say, okay, you can move this relationship up to level 4, and then it'll be better. He says, you can? Yeah, it tells you in the book how to do that. Then you say, no, wait, Ralph, let me show you something else. And you open the book to the scale of sexuality. And you say, you don't have to tell me, but where are you on this scale? He's going to look at it and say, you mean there's a scale of sexuality? And then you say, yes. Where are you on the scale? I guarantee he's going to want to know that because he's having trouble in this part. So in a matter of seconds, he's going to find a bracket. He's going to say something like, well, I can see right away 6 or 7 have nothing to do with us. That's not. And 1 and 2, I don't even understand 1 and 2. So it's got to be like 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you say to him, see if you can read it and get it exact. So he studies it, you help him, he comes back, he says, well, now that I read it, I can see I'm at level 4. And he'll have realization. And like he might say, and yes, and while I'm at it, I can realize that Gertrude, my girlfriend, she's not at level 4. She's at level 5, and that explains why we're having so much trouble. See? So he's already having insights. Now, then you can say, now let me show you something else. You open up to the scale of allegiance. Well, I already know any time a relationship deteriorates, it's always because allegiance deteriorates, right? So they were, you start out love, honor, and obey till death do us, right? And at some point, 50% of marriages end in divorce in the United States. So what happened? Allegiance deteriorated. So guy gets married, he gets mad at his wife, and he starts fooling around with Betty Lou. See, that's a deterioration of allegiance. So he's at a lower level. So you can say to him, look at this scale. And he's going to say, scale of allegiance. I never heard of this. Yeah, look at it. Where is this relationship, or where are you as regards this relationship on the scale? Guaranteed he's going to want to know. I'm interested. He's going to look at it, see, and he's going to do the same thing. He's going to say, definitely not number 1. I know we left that a long time ago. And it's not 6 or 7. We're not at that. It's got to be 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. See, he gets that in a sec. You have him read it. He comes back and you say, okay, now, you don't have to tell me if you don't want, but for your own illumination, where are you? And he's going to look at it. He's, well, I can see that I'm at level. See, and he's going to have a realization and say, yeah, I can remember when I'm on. And then I did this and I went to 2. And then I did that and now I'm at 3. No wonder it's not so good. See? And he might also say, and Gertrude is at 4. She's even lower than I am. No wonder she treats me that way. See? So I could keep doing this. What I'm doing, giving you examples. This guy could easily find 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 scales that are relevant to this relation. Because a relationship is complicated. It's got all these different dynamics and facets to it. And every time you look at it from another scale, you get another understanding of it. So by the time he figures out where this relationship is, or where he is as regards this relationship in 10 or 12 scales, you have changed his whole mind about it. And I don't mean you've convinced him of anything, because you didn't tell him anything. I'm saying his mental process is different now, because he's had 8 or 10 or 12 insights. That's why she does that. That's why I do that. That's why we can't get along, Papa. See? So now he is at the end of this hour. He's in a different frame of mind. Now, this could go a couple of ways. He could say, I'm going to get a copy of this book and I'm going to use it with Gertrude to improve our relationship. See, he might do that. Or he might say, well, I'm going to show this to Gertrude and see if I can get her to have her own insights about it. But this could go another way, too. He can say, you know what? I'm done with this woman. She's a pain in the ass. I'm not doing this anymore. And he breaks up. Now, again, that doesn't mean he's going to be bummed out. He's not. He's going to be happy because he saw the truth. You see, because the truth shall set you free. And when you spot the level, it's the truth. And this is not hard to do because it's natural phenomena. It's just like I know about botany and flowers because I've been in gardening since a kid. So I can analyze your garden, and say, these belong in the shade. These you don't want to overwater. These ones, when you pick them, you better wear gloves. You see, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas a little kid doesn't know any of that. So this is useful to anyone who can read English and wants to improve himself or others. And this goes to your question, can it be used for harm? It can't, because you take some thug who's in, let's say, MS-13, right? He's a professional criminal. His whole life is about doing drugs, having gratuitous sex, robbing store, cheating people. That's his life, right? Hiding from the cops. Okay? This guy is going to be guaranteed at or near the bottom of most of the scales. That's why he's like that. So this book is not going to help him. First of all, if you said to him, here, read this book, it'll help you, he'd say, that guy, he probably can't even read a book. If he could read a book, he probably wouldn't be like that. Then, even if you could get him to read it, he wouldn't understand it. I mean, you don't have to be too smart to figure out that if you engage in a life of crime, you're going to either be killed or wind up in jail. That's what happens to those people. So, he's obviously not bright enough to figure that out. He thinks he's going to outsmart the drug and what is it called? The Drug Administration, Federal Drug Administration. He's not. They're experts. They're going to crack down on him. He thinks he's going to outsmart the cops. The cops are very sophisticated today, okay? They're going to find this guy, they're going to arrest him, he's going to go away. So, if he were an upscale person, he wouldn't be like that. So, the bottom line is, this book does not help downscale people because they're downscale people. So, this book wouldn't help Adolf Hitler. It would help you. Because I can see just hanging around with you and talking to you and your body language, you're a pretty upscale guy, okay? You're going to be higher on some and lower on others, but you're going to be able to use this book. Like a perfect example, historical, John Gotti. John Gotti became the head of the Gambino crime family by killing his boss, Castellano, who had been selected to take over from Gambino himself. So he kills him and takes over, and he died in prison. You know why he died in prison? He was a dumb thug. The FBI had many, many hours of tape recordings of this guy. I've heard some of those tapes. This is not a smart person. This is a dumb thug, okay? So Carlo Gambino himself was a smart man. He was not a dumb thug, okay? He was in the mafia because his father was in the mafia, and he said, we're rich, and here's how we make money. He said, okay, and he went along with it. It wasn't because he was a sociopath. And so they never got him for anything. Everybody knew where he lived. Everybody knew what car he drove. Everybody knew he was the head of the largest mafia crime. They could never get anything on him. He was too smart, okay? Gotti was not like that. Gotti walked around, custom-made suits, driving in a Cadillac, becoming a public figure. That's not what you want. And the people in the mafia know that. So like Joe Colombo, who had his own family, he was assassinated by somebody in the mafia because he was on stage being a public figure. That's not what they wanted. They wanted to be like Carlo Gambino, behind the scenes, quiet, don't attract attention to yourself. See? So Gambino died in his own home of a heart ailment as an old man. Colombo was up on stage saying, there is no mafia, and they assassinated him, okay? So he wasn't as clever, you see? So this is for smart people to sort out their life and make it better. So what this is going to do is, this is going to take somebody who's smart enough to read this, smart enough to understand this, smart enough to apply this book and make his life better. Because every time you spot yourself on a level, you have an epiphany. Every time you spot somebody else, you have an epiphany. And then you can move yourself up to the next level. And let me tell you how and why. There's an old datum in engineering that said 90% of finding the right answer is asking the right question. The reason why Einstein found the theory of relativity before anybody else is he asked that question. Nobody else did. That's why Newton found the 3 laws of motion. He asked that question. See? And he said, oh, yeah, there's these 3 laws. And then he said, well, I'm going to have to invent calculus in order to use this. Okay? All this happened when he was a 25-year-old genius. So when you are dealing with a situation, knowledge is always better than not having knowledge. And it's much better than having the wrong idea. So here's how it works. Most people have kids. Most kids have trouble in school, right? So the dad sees that Junior is getting bad grades. He comes home, he's got a D on his math test. Dad says, I got to intervene here. He says, Junior, come over here. Let me show you. Let's say the kid's in middle school. He's 12 years old. He's old enough to read this book. So the dad opens up the book to the scale of scholarship. The kid knows he's a scholar. He knows what that means. And he also knows he's having trouble in school. So he's going to be very interested. He's going to say, I never heard of this, a scale of scholarship? Yeah, where are you on this scale? Guaranteed the kid's going to want to know. So he goes through the same process. He'll say, well, definitely not 1, 2, or 3, because I'm not that good a student. Okay, so he got it down to 4, 5, 6, or 7. Now he reads it. He says, okay, I understand. Now he comes back and says, well, now that I read this, I can see that I'm at level 5. That's not so good. No wonder I'm having a lot of trouble. It's near the bottom. And the dad says, well, very good. Let's move you to level 4. He says, you mean I can move up? Yes. If you read that chapter, I tell you with specificity how to make someone a better. It's all in the chapter. So the dad uses it. He uses the principles that are in that chapter. The kid cooperates. And now the next card, instead of getting C's and D's, he's getting B's and C's. Now the dad did this without hiring a tutor, without sending him to remedial class, without spending any money. See, he did it all. Now, their relationship is going to improve. My dad helped me be a better student. You see? So their bond is going to be better now. So that's a perfect example of how the average person. So this is extremely user-friendly. And that is the case for 2 reasons. One is it's natural law. So like when you look at the periodic table for you maybe, 11 or you see this thing. Oh, what's this periodic table? So you look at it and you see numbers and you see, oh, helium is here, then hydrogen is 2, lithium is 3. See? And you see, this is beautiful. This is all the elements. It's on one piece of paper. So that has an impact. Now, before Mendeleev invented the periodic table, there was chemistry. Chemistry had been around for hundreds of years. But he made it easier to understand, easier to use, and easier to teach. So he made it more user-friendly. He made it more accessible to people. That is what this book is. So you've got 35 periodic tables for the corresponding 30. So if you want to know, choice. It's a power of choice. See? And you see, yeah, everybody's at one of these 7 levels. Oh, yeah, I can see this. And I'll tell you something that happens with guy's reading the book, right? And he's not thinking of his father-in-law. He's just reading the book. And he gets down to level 4. He says, wait a minute, this is my father-in-law. He's exactly like this. See, he has a big epiphany. Yeah. Now look, I don't know this guy's father-in-law. I don't even know the guy. He's just some guy who bought my book. So how did that happen? It happened because it's natural phenomena. So it's just like the Fibonacci sequence. If you look at a sunflower, you count the seeds one way, it's a Fibonacci number. You count them the other way, it's a Fibonacci number. Take a pine cone. You count the little leaves of it one way, it's a Fibonacci number. Count them the other way, it's a different Fibonacci number. How does that work? These plants don't know anything about math. They don't even have brain. There's all kinds of creatures that are built on Fibonacci numbers without knowing it. Now, this has been going on for 1 billion years before Fibonacci ever thought about it. But he came along and said, there's something here. Why are these numbers, these same numbers? And so he said, well, let's take this number and this number. And then we'll take this number. And let's see, how does this? And he figured out the formula. He reverse engineered the Fibonacci sequence from those numbers. So now everybody has it who wants it. And we know the Fibonacci numbers to infinity because he gave us the formula. So it's the same type of thing. I saw this phenomena and I said, there's something here. There's something to this. And then I spent 25 years proving it. And during that 25 years, I saw many people use this. All kinds of people. Because you have to realize, here's what happened. First version, sent it out, got feedback, wrote the second version. Sent it out, got feedback, wrote the third version. So each time I sent it out, I sent it to students, colleagues, associates, friends, and I got feedback. And one guy would say, it's good, but you should change this one thing. Oh, yeah, okay. And I just did that for 25 years until I got it foolproof to where people get it. They get it. It's not hard. It's like when you look at the Pythagorean theorem. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand the Pythagorean theorem. It's so clear. It's so simple. Well, we have a triangle, you see, and one side is 4, the other side is 3. Well, the third side's going to be 5. And we know why. We can calculate that. Here's the formula. Oh, yeah. See? And you've got it for the rest of your life. It's actually quite simple. Now, you have to realize the Pythagorean theorem was around before Earth existed, and it will still be around after Earth no more. And that's what these scales, I just wrote them down. And then I spent a lot of time perfecting. Now remember I told you it took 20 years to craft. The most time-consuming part was expressing it in a way that would make sense to the average. And I know I did that because people read it and get it.
Yep. I mean, my understanding is these things has always existed. It's just that we got to find ways, like you say, to systematize it to the point that the average person, not of course too slow to the point they can't learn, or I don't know, some bright people can have spots. You raise Clinton with sexual relations. Not the greatest at that, but political governance, you could say he's done good on that. He's higher in that scale.
Yeah.
That I agree with. Of course, I mean, anyone who has a rational brain could not argue with that. But Bill Clinton fans, they will attack. It was like, why is he attacking
Well, it isn't an attack. It's a fact. It's a fact that he was a Rhodes Scholar.
Right.
That he got reelected and left office with a high approval rating. And it's also a fact that all kinds of women have sued him because of what he did to them. And some of them have gone on video and said he raped me.
Oh, no, like I said, no, I agree with you. It's just that, some people are so emotionally, charged that they're like, they gotta just take that one part of that attack and just
All I'm
stretch it.
saying is he's high on one scale and low on another.
Yeah.
I agree. Which is true for most of us.
I just won't be surprised the comment section is going to be at least one like that. I'm just, you can't please everybody. I mean, no matter how great the system is.
Yeah. Well,
but to your point, I get why you use it. That's a lot of us, I can say I'm low in what? Probably in relationships because I don't trust people very easily. But I could be high in, analyzing people. I think I'm pretty high in. A lot of people, I have a good idea who they are. Not that I'm perfect. There's sometimes I could get, see that one come. See that one. I kind of naturally do some of that. I think you said by getting that insight. So wait a minute, why did I miss this? Certain things together. Okay, he did that. I find that strange, but I didn't pay attention at the time. 6 months later, started acting very odd and cold, offensive for what seems to be for no reason, but there was a reason behind it by that.
Yeah, and by the way, I just want
to finish one thing that your main point is that insight is the key.
That's right. It's the key to understanding people. And I want to say about Bill Clinton, I don't dislike Bill Clinton. If you said, hey, Bill Clinton's come over, would you like to join us? I would be there in a New York minute. I would love to talk to him. He is a smart man, okay? I'm not saying I don't like him or have anything against him. And I'm not saying anything that everybody doesn't already know, okay?
All right, that's it for you Bill Clinton rabid fanboys who just can't. I just won't be surprised. That's just in the comment. I just laugh at those comments because I have received very low IQ comments.
Oh, sure.
And I just I just laugh. You don't respond to them. Let them express their emotions. Maybe they didn't have a good day. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. Just they have the right to express themselves. Rather it's stupid, yeah, but what am I going to do? Stoop to their level? Probably lower my scale a bit just to beat them? No, I was going to use some of your words. Let's try to stay in a higher scale. Hey, just some people just need a soundboard. And for some cases, a keyboard to express their vitriol. And the reason why I'm saying that too, because politically we had a very tribalistic time. So that's the only reason why I am. It's more of a warning. I'm not defending the hater. I personally, I like that example. So that's all I can say about that. It's just, I was serving that up as a potential warning, especially when I shared this video. It's always going to be like
I'll tell you something interesting about Bill Clinton. I feel sorry for Bill. If I were married to that woman, I would probably be cheating on her too.
Oh, now the Hillary fans will go after you on that one.
She throws ashtrays at him and screams obscenities at him and things like that. I'm not saying she's a stupid person. I'm just saying, imagine being married to her.
Her interaction skills with people, I would say she's definitely on the lower scale. I could easily see that. I agree. There's a lot of stuff that came up about her how not just him, I mean, a lot of other people actually throwing stuff and
Yeah,
throwing offensive
that's right.
comments.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree, and
Well,
that's why she never got my vote, by the way.
Bill never would have said basket of deplorable.
Right.
He's too smart for that.
Yeah.
Okay? Even if he thought it, I don't know what he thinks or doesn't think. We're not mind readers, but he would not have said that. Okay?
Oh, that's a credit exactly. And him and I'll just even throw Obama or
That's
too
right.
savvy to say something like that. But
That's right.
her, yeah, and
So, I'm a fan of Bill Clinton, really, in a lot of ways.
no,
And so is the Bush family, by the way. I don't know if you know. The Bushes praise him.
Oh yeah, I mean, you see how they gather together. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not just for. I mean, they've been doing that for a while. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't fake relations like that forever.
Yeah, Bush Sr. was very impressed by Bill Clinton.
I don't want this discussion to get overly political, but to your point.
Just talking about people.
Yeah, I like to use historical, political examples because that is the branding of this podcast.
Right.
I do appreciate that. So now let's do the plug-in.
Okay.
Mentioned book at the beginning. Let's get the capitalist part, one of my favorite parts. Get his book. It could be revolutionary to you, okay? I'm not saying it to be dramatic. I'm personally I'm very curious. I'm sure there's areas that I'm shockingly high in. Some areas that I'm low in. And maybe there's some areas where I'm mid, but with that scale, I can find precisely where I'm at. Mm-hmm. Work from maybe I'm a 4 in this, maybe I'm a 4 on this scale, 5 here, a 2 there. It depends. He has 35 different scales, so there's a lot of attribute that we have to measure, and we are, no matter how Renaissance like the person is, there's probably gonna be areas where they'll need some work. That's why you go to Leonardo da Vinci, because he wasn't just an artist; he was ahead of his time. Even the visionary you could throw in there. I mean, who the heck draws a model of a helicopter right after the Dark Ages? Okay, that just doesn't happen by accident. So just get his book. It's on Amazon. He already has an ebook as well. Septemics, Hierarchies of the Human Phenomena. It's very humanistic. No need to be religiously defensive or atheistic defensive. No, it's human. Okay? Get this book, all right? It's definitely a much more affordable decision than try to go to a psychiatrist. Yeah, $32 instead of $100 or $1,000 for one session with a psychiatrist, huh?
Hey, the ebook is only $10.
Yeah, if you want to be super techie and economical about it, yeah, the ebook, yeah, Kindle right there. But me, I love a hardcover. I'm a sucker for hardcovers. I love them. It cares with the book. It kind of protects them, and I'm a sucker for it. So yes, I do spend money on books. Good brain. For a millennial, yes, I love to read a physical copy. So I am not that stereotype that I read everything through a screen. And look, it already damaged my eyes for being on the screen for too long. So my eyes need a break. All right. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. Before I go on a mini rant. This is not a religious cult or anything like that. It's very human. And you already provide a lot of realistic examples. Some interesting ones too. You ready for it to the mafia? The stupid public show-off type who got whacked, that's the proper term, and then the one who was more behind the scenes in the shadow. That's a lot. He's not saying all criminals are stupid, because one negative review just kind of indirectly says that. They read some of the reviews, but reviews enough are and you want to know why I'm not taking that review very seriously, negative one? It wasn't purchased for I could just easily deduce that this person was just simply too emotional. It was just a hater. You don't take haters very. I'm not defending his book. I never got the book yet, but I'm gonna get it. I will take the negative feedback more seriously if it's specific and it could be worked toward. Not oh, your mama's stupid or fat. That's just an insult. Okay, have a nice. Next. So should we become when this podcast become big, I'm gonna have to I'm not gonna even ban you. I'm just gonna ignore you, and I'm sure you're gonna come running to me like, hey, atheists, you're gonna have to be defensive about it. No, all of this scale spirituality. You figure it out. You probably believe in spirits more than you think, or you probably don't. I don't know. Get the book and find out. That's all. Get the book and find out. All right, it's a very affordable decision. I know inflation is a problem. Wow, I'm becoming a marketer. I don't know how this is happening. I'm not a business. I think I'm becoming. Anything else you want to add, Jim, before we wrap?
Sure. Let me just say one sentence to bring all of this into focus. The data in this book are vital for every person. It can help you to achieve your goals faster and easier by explaining what might otherwise seem to be inexplicable or random.
And you know what? With a very detailed system like that, you understand why that curveball wasn't a curveball. It wasn't gain insight. Remember, sight, key, better life. Especially when you study that data. I'm a data person. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not an engineering person, but I do love data. I'm a data person. And I think I relate to engineers that I like a precise answer instead of, oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe this could work. Ugh. Give me clarity. I need a yes or no. Is it gonna work? And if yes, how is it gonna work? Yeah, it's more my historical, I love a good story, but not maybe, I don't know, yes, no, yes, but stop. You're not clever. You're just driving people mad. I'm sure, and if I could speak for Jim, feel free to correct me here, I'm sure he'll drive him mad too. You just give all these vague 50 Shades of Grey answer that amounts to nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. People can say whatever they want. I have a very precise mind, and I used it to create the system, and your success is my reward.
There you go. Come on. He is serving you. Maybe it may not be the way that you expect. Shot. Can knock it down. If you don't try it, I don't care about your. So that's all I'm gonna say about it. Enough of me just promoting the product, call to action. I'll share that link in the description. And I think that's the only link I need to share, unless there's anything else you want to add. Other than that, and of course the website and I'm sure you all know Amazon. And it is Barnes and Noble, which I thought they all shut down, but they're just not as much. Hey, you could prevent that business for completely collapsing if you get it through Barnes & Noble. But hey, you do what's convenient for you. Amazon's the go. It's your money at the end of the day. You decide how and where. I cannot do. Just if your life is stagnant, not doing so well, book could be an antidote. And as a Christian, God works in ways where it's not always through a church. It can be through a person providing this book. It does got scale spirituality. So, okay, I think that's it. Final word, Jim. Any final?
Septemics.com. Septemics.
Yep. .com.
Right.
Okay, Septemics. Can't forget that S. Also take you to a cyberspace where you can get lost. Maybe the link said it doesn't work. Septemics.com. Okay.